Comp is important, but it's not the most important thing. Okay. The most important thing and what's actually going to make sure that you can make money is the bank that you work for actually approving and closing deals.
Have you seen Sterling's jewelry?
Yeah, because Sterling just like smashes us with his pinky ring every episode.
Yes.
I haven't worn the pinky ring in weeks. Okay?
Bring the pinky ring back.
I haven't put it. Make the pinky ring great again. Is that what you're about to say?
Is that why your one arm looks skinnier than the others? Because you took that ring off and now it's not getting as much play.
Good banter.
There we go. You look like a young Steve Hoshak.
We're on the Hoshak plan, man. You know, I just want to be great.
Kid.
That's all I want.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the BDO Show, a podcast for passionate BDOs wanting to level up their game with advice and stories from battle-tested BDOs. I'm your co-host, Emily Detor, and I'm here with my fellow co-hosts, Alan Peterson, Chris Hackney, Sterling Birdsong, and Ryan Kroge. Thank you for being with us. And at the beginning of each episode, I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody to hit the like and subscribe button and go ahead and submit some topics and suggestions over to the BDO Show at gmail.com. Okay, BDOs, it's story time. And no, I am not talking about the time Sterling tried to finance a zoo. You'll have to go back to episode 3 for that. I'm talking about the story that your borrower has in their head and they may need that extra boost to finally get it onto paper. Rapid Business Plans is a known and trusted partner that can help them do just that. Whether your borrowers are working towards acquiring a business, starting one up, or expanding and making moves, within just a few short days, Rapid Business Plans will deliver powerful, fast, SBA and USDA ready business plans with projections and assumptions. If they need an export business plan for an ITL loan or a feasibility study, they have you covered there too. We know this process is not a walk in the park, or should I say zoo. Let the Rapid Business Plans team take some of the wild out of the process so that your borrower's vision and passions can come to life. For more information or to get acquainted, email Bethany McClellan at bethany@rapidbusinessplans.com or click the link in the show notes. All right. So for today's episode, we are going to be talking about compensation. And so I'm not a BDO. I'm a sales coordinator. I work mostly with, trade shows, conferences, admin. So I am not going to be able to weigh in too heavy here, but I have a feeling that these guys are going to be able to give us, especially the new BDO, some good insight on how it all works. So I'll go ahead and have Chris kick off the topic today.
Yeah, Emily, you should be a BDO.
Maybe.
We're 10 episodes in.
12. This is our 12.
12 episodes in. Yeah. By the end of this, let's get you signed up.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. Wu-Tang said it best. Alan, cash rules everything around me. Compensation, cream, comp, cash, SBA BDOs. I think it's the best worst kept secret, compensation. It's a controversial topic depending on who you ask. We thought, why not spice it up a little bit this week and talk about comp? Now, in this episode, we are not going to discuss any of our own specific compensation plans. I think you can see that by certain people's jewelry or their attire that we're doing okay.
These aren't real. These aren't, depending on who's asking.
But what we hope to do is just give you...
This is a one of one.
That is a Mitchell and Ness throwback. But what we hope to do is give you, have a broader discussion and generalizations about how compensation works in the industry. So if you're a newer BDO and kind of understand how you can be compensated in different structures that are common, and then also just discuss where compensation is headed in the industry as well, and kind of hopefully have a good dialogue about that. So first, Al Peterson, I'm going to hit you with the hard line question here. Compensation for BDOs, too much? Too little? Fair? What's your thought?
I think it's just right. I think that the things that I like about it is if you find in the industry, most compensation plans are going to have a level of a tiered system. What I like about it is that the more you do, the more that you can potentially make, regardless of if it is based on the loan's, gross loan amount, if you're compensated that way, if you're compensated on a percentage of the gain on premium when the loan's actually sold, or any thereof. Every compensation plan that I've seen, at least, there's always a component where you have the ability to really make unlimited money, right? It's kind of a crazy concept, but if you work really, really hard, you know that you're going to be compensated justly. The more you do, the more that you make. So in my opinion, that's what I think makes it very fair. If you're not able to produce and you're living off a base, likely you won't stay too long, or at least you shouldn't.
Sterling?
Yeah. So I think that just in general, when it comes to compensation plans, and this is for anybody who maybe is looking to start a career, I think that when you get into a sales role, you always want to try and find a compensation plan that's not capped. You want a plan that, as Alan mentioned, is never going to hold you back from a certain income potential. And I think that you see this a lot in certain types of banking, particularly, some of our partners maybe on the other side of the coin, the conventional side, maybe sometimes even on the residential side inside of the bank. But just in general, you see what loan officers are able to make, and there's typically some type of a cap on what you're able to make in any given year. If you hit goal, maybe you're going to get 50% of your base salary as your bonus, as a one-time bonus. That's a pretty typical type of comp plan that you'll see for a commercial loan officer that's doing conventional loans for a bank. The beauty of being an SBA loan officer, if you're doing it in the right place, is that you can get a comp plan that really is more so open-ended. It's a true commission-driven compensation package where you typically do have some type of a base income, but you also will get paid off of your production. So you should hopefully be getting paid for each and every deal that you do in some form or fashion. And a lot of times you don't actually have to wait for it as long as you would with some of these other comp plans in banking as well. So, what's typical for non-BDOs is that you get paid once annually. So you might get a bonus sometime in March for your prior year's production. The beauty of a lot of these compensation plans for being a business development officer is that a lot of times you're getting paid in the very next month. I mean, think about what that can do for your cash flow. Think about what it can do for your lifestyle. It certainly will allow some lifestyle creep. You have to be careful about that if you're a BDO because you start getting, big commission checks and they hit every month. And all of a sudden you forget how to budget. But you should obviously be careful about that. But I think it's fair that BDOs are compensated that way because you have to remember the product that we're selling here. One, it is a very specialized product. It's very difficult to essentially learn the SOP and understand it. It does take a high level of financial knowledge and also understanding the rules and also being able to then shift and change as the rules change. And then on top of that, you also have to sell. You have to be able to speak to people. You have to be able to convince people to work with you over working with other lenders as well. And then on top of that, remember the product you're selling also drives more revenue for your bank in relation to other products that your bank sells. So the real reason why a lot of SBA BDOs are able to make a larger commission check is because at the end of the day, they are bringing in more revenue to their bank. There's typically a sale that happens on the guaranteed portion of a 7A loan, which results in a large premium income for the bank. And because of that premium income, they are able to then give you a piece of that win. So that's the reason why BDOs are paid more. And so, yeah, I would say that it's fair.
Yeah, and the one thing that you just touched on, Sterling, an SBA BDO and a bank, you're true partners in the deal because most high-producing SBA shops, they're selling loans on the secondary market for immediate gain on sale income. So you're going to get compensated in real time versus a commercial or conventional lender. They make a loan, it sits on the books, on the balance sheets for a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, however long. So they get compensated, as you mentioned, on a bonus, or maybe there's a very small incremental incentive per loan. So think about that. And that's what I enjoy about SBA BDO, the world there. You're a partner in the bank. And, I know there's some controversy about BDOs maybe being overcompensated, but I guarantee you there is not a single...
No. Call them out.
No, I would never do that. I would never do that. But there is not a single bank that is upside down on a producer that is actually producing, right? Just as much as the BDO is compensated, the bank is making more. I think that's not a secret at all based on the premiums and where they're at and the gain on sales. So it's a true partnership when you think about the BDO role and the bank's interest there. Emily, what you got?
I was going to ask Alan what he thought was better, percentage of premium or percentage of gross loan?
That's a really good question, and you'll get a lot of opinions on that, right? Depending on who you ask. What I think a benefit. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, what I like about the plan of splitting with the premium is that you're really all the way partnered up with the bank. When the market does bad, everybody kind of is like that together. When things are good, everybody eats together. And I think that is something that what they drive that way, what the banks that utilize that comp plan. What I like about the gross loan amount is it's very easy for me to know what it is, what you're going to make on what deal, if it's structured this way, if it's priced this way, if I'm paying a referral partner or not. I know exactly what that's going to be. And that helps for forecasting as well. So there's a little more certainty there. When the secondary market's really ripping, you can make money on the plan where you're sharing on premium. It really just kind of depends, right? I think that when you really break it down, the plans are more similar than they are different at the end of the day.
Yeah, with the secondary market premium getting paid in that manner, you usually see there's an exodus that happens when premiums drop. When there's a drop in premiums, a lot of those lenders, they leave. If they're not totally loyal and attached to that shop, they leave and they find greener pastures. So that is a consideration. If you're getting paid a percentage of their premium, you're a partner when things are down and bad, and you're a partner when, as Alan mentioned, that everyone is eating well and premiums are up. So always consider that if you're a newer BDO. Is this a place I want to be for the long haul? If you're only thinking about compensation, then you might want to look at a place that pays percentage of gross loans, because there's more stability as far as your income, whether premiums are up or down.
Yeah. And if we're being really brutally honest here, I mean, if you're talking about what's more fair for the bank, it is premium, right? Because essentially what can happen is if premiums take a dive, which, we've all been in SBA lending long enough now to have seen premiums go up and down several times during our careers. And so, it can be fantastic for a bank potentially when they're, just paying you a gross of what your loan volume is, but it can get really dicey for them when premiums dive and they still have to pay you that same gross. What's fairer to the bank essentially is, hey, you get 15% or whatever it is of the premium, and if we make $100,000, you're getting X, and if we make $50,000, you're getting Y, right? And that's really more fair to the bank. However, what's better for the BDO, in my opinion, this is a BDO driven podcast, is I think gross is far superior.
Yeah. And also if you're new and you're thinking about jumping into this world, and you're looking for a base salary, you're asking the wrong question.
Dude, I knew this was coming.
You know me. You know what I'm about.
Can I tell a quick story? I promoted a young associate lender to a higher role and put her on a base salary. And the first thing she says to me, no lie, in a very serious meeting where she said, yeah, Alan told me that base salaries are for losers. And I just died laughing. And I said, congratulations, we're going to put you on a base, take you off hourly, and you're going to be an associate lender. And she was so happy. And then she said, but yeah, Alan said base salaries are for losers. But
this is the thought process behind that. And Alan, you should definitely explain what's your thought process behind that, because it does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, that this world that's production driven, it's a sales role, right? And in my opinion, that having the concept of being able to be compensated for as much as you work, as much as you can do, as much money as you can make the bank, they're going to share with you. The questions need to be around, what kind of deals can we do? What do I see other producers they're doing? What kind of deals are they doing? Not, can I get a base salary, man? I mean, listen, I sold paper and ink door to door in Jacksonville, Florida in 2007.
In the
right?
hot sun.
Like, that's where you learn how to, close, right? In a suit. Yeah. Walking,
gross.
It was that's probably for another episode, but I mean, it's something that was always ingrained in me, is that, if you're chasing a big base salary in an environment where if you work, you're rewarded so handsomely, either you're greedy or you're just not the right person for this kind of role, in my opinion. And I stand by that, and I kind of stand on business in that regard.
Absolutely. And with the base salary thing, BDOs, the SBA BDOs are good for the bank because it's kind of there's a break-even point where if Sterling produces a certain amount of loans, you're in the black, right? If he gets once he gets past $3 or $4 million, which is usually like week 2 of any given year, we're in the black. Like, we haven't lost money on Sterling. We're actually making more money. He's made enough production where the gain on sale has covered his base salary. Now, he's not working for free. We're sharing the income and the premium through his compensation. But with a commercial loan officer, it really doesn't work that way. You're paying them a base salary. Sure, you're getting interest on those loans, but you're not in the money immediately as quickly as you are with an SBA BDO. So I see that a lot with BDOs that jump from shop to shop to shop. They're getting a base, they're riding a base for 6 to 7 or 8 months. They're not putting up any volume. So that bank is like, well, heck, we aren't breaking even on this guy. I hate to say it and, equate someone to a number, but it is a business at the end of the day. As I always say, these are great places to work, great people and great leadership. But at the end of the day, it's a business. If I'm not breaking even on you as an employee, as a BDO, then it doesn't make sense here. So be mindful of what Alan is saying. If you're focused so much on your base salary, then I lack confidence in you as a BDO joining my team. If that's something you're super focused on, or if you're asking for another 5 to 10 grand in base salary, and that's what's going to make your decision to join, I don't want you.
Nah, man. And this is some more advice while we keep running with this. If you are in the business, you're trying to get in the business, you're newer, you're thinking about making a move, if the dangling of a base salary increase is your motive for moving, you got to find out the rest of it. If a bank is willing to pay a higher base to retain talent as well, that might be a telltale sign of a bank that's not really doing many deals. I'll be transparent with you. We had a situation where before I moved banks, I had talked with a few other folks about before I came over to where I am now. And during that conversation, I remember kind of looking up the annual production of these shops, right? And you'll get a sales manager like talking about all this stuff and, we're going to give you X on the base and don't worry, all this stuff. But my question to them was, how am I going to fit in there if you did $50 million as a bank last year and I did 45 while running small balance, right? So how is that going to work? Those are the questions. It's almost as if, yes, I'm judging you if you're looking for a base. No love for base riders. I own that, right? However, if you're on the other side of that coin and someone's telling you, but they got a great base, there's a reason why. Continue to investigate. We're lucky. This network of folks in the SBA lending on the BDO side, the folks that are really doing deals, guess what? We all know each other. And if we don't know each other yet and you're hearing this, say hello. I love to build on that network, right? That community that we have. Most of the comp plans at the shops that are really doing deals, they're really not that different from one another at the end of the day.
And I think what Alan touched on is a really key point here. Comp is important, but it's not the most important thing. Okay. The most important thing and what's actually going to make sure that you can make money is the bank that you work for actually approving and closing deals. If you don't work for a shop that actually really wants to SBA lend, that has a certain budget that they want to hit every year for 7A loans, then it doesn't really matter what your comp plan is. You can have the world's best comp plan, but if you only close 5 million, it doesn't really matter, does it? Right? Whereas if you went to another bank and maybe the comp plan wasn't as strong or aggressive, but you closed 30, I guarantee you there's no comp plan that's going to make up the difference between 5 and 30. It just doesn't exist. So the first thing and the most important thing is making sure that you're in a bank where you're comfortable and where you know that they're going to back you and where you can produce.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Great advice. I was going to ask you guys a question because, again, I'm not a BDO, but when it comes to the compensation piece, so you're telling me that you can be capped even though you're like a wonderful producer and you've got like deals just like flooding and they can cap you on income, but do they start pulling from your base?
No, they're not pulling from your base, but so this is not something that necessarily is the norm per se when it comes to SBA BDOs. This is really more so of a regular banking thing. So obviously, SBA is kind of a specialized product, and because of that, they're kind of siloed off inside of the bigger sphere of banking. But when you're talking about a general loan officer, like somebody who does, conventional CRE loans, for example, yeah, it's not uncommon for them to have a comp plan where they are capped. So, you can make, they'll know what their cap is. They'll say, oh, well, if I hit my deposits goal and I hit my loan growth goal and I don't have any, chargebacks or anything like that happens, then I can make 225. Like that's my ultimate number all in. That's what I'm going to make this year. But it doesn't matter if, I do 30 million in loans versus 20 million in loans. Once I hit that bucket and I've at my 20, I've maxed out. And so what ends up happening with those types of people, and the thing that nobody really wants to talk about is that they end up sandbagging, right? They take the second half of the year off.
Yeah,
they get really good at golf. They
really good at
they have great work-life balance. They see their children,
Right.
They go and they wait, and then they wait until January 1 and they start trying to crank it up again. Or they wait, deals that could have closed in November, all of a sudden they close in January 1, right? So because that's just how you play that game if you're a salesperson. But that's the great thing about being on this SBA side in most cases, and not every SBA shop is the same. So we are blessed to work for banks that have similar comp plans, but not every single comp plan is created equal in SBA. There are comp plans that are more similar to the one that's for conventional lenders that's out there as well. So, you just have to kind of realize where you are. But again, comp is not the most important thing. I'm going to say that again. Comp is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you're at a good bank that takes care of you and believes in you.
So Sterling, what are your thoughts on clawbacks?
Okay. So my thoughts on clawbacks, I know this is not probably going to be the popular
and
answer.
To new BDOs, explain what that is really quick too.
Okay, so here's what a clawback is. So let's say that you make a loan, it's for $1 million, you get a commission check, right? Let's just say your commission check is, I don't know, 10 grand, just for an easy number, right? That loan, all of a sudden on month 6, goes bad. They decided that they fail, they can no longer pay the loan back. Well, guess what? Your bank just lost essentially that whole entire loan. They've sold it on the secondary market. They're going to have to now get that guarantee back. Get it. They're going to buy back their loan from the secondary market. They're going to have to reach out to the SBA. They're going to have to get the guarantee honored. So basically, the bank's going to lose money on this deal. Okay, the investors have lost money. Everybody's lost money on this deal. Okay, besides you, the salesperson. You're the only person who made money on this deal, right? So what a clawback is saying like, hey, buddy, since everybody lost in this transaction, you don't get to keep that 10 grand commission check. We're going to claw that back. And typically the way that that's done is it's taken from future commission checks. So let's say that, next month you were expecting a 20 grand commission check. Well, guess what? You're not getting 20, you're getting 10. Because the loan that you made 6 months ago went bad. Everybody lost their shirt on it. And so because of that, you don't get to keep your 10 grand commission on that deal. Okay. That's one type of clawback. The other thing that may trigger a clawback is actually an early repayment. I've seen that in comp plans as well, where, maybe you helped Mr. Jones go buy his real estate for his veterinary practice, for example. And then all of a sudden, private equity came in and they offered Mr. Jones a 12 times multiple for his veterinary practice. Okay, this is a real thing that happens. I was actually just talking to one of your coworkers, Alan, about this fairly recently, where I think it was less than 60 days after a closing, all of a sudden they called up and said, hey, we want to pay off the loan in full. Well, I know what you're thinking is like, oh, well, that's great, right? Well, not so much, because in order to break even on a loan, it has to be in place for a while, right? Especially if you're a third party investor who paid a premium above and beyond the face value of that note so that you could have it in your pool of loans. Well, if it doesn't get held for a certain amount of time, you're going to lose money. So an early repayment is actually not a good thing for you. So in that situation, sometimes banks will also decide, hey, this is a good situation for a clawback. You shouldn't get to keep your commission. We're going to have to buy this back in the secondary market. And essentially, we are actually going to lose money on this deal.
Has that ever happened to you, Alan, or anybody?
I've never been clawed back.
At the time of this recording, I have never experienced a clawback.
Oh, knock on wood.
Because you never made a bad deal, Alan.
Never made a deal I didn't like.
Never made a bad deal. They're afraid that you're going to come collect. That's the problem. They're going to show up in that baseball shirt, and you got the matching bat.
Right. No, but I know that it happens, right? And I think that the other thing to know is the bank is going to try to work with the borrower first and foremost, right? Before we're talking about clawback, the bank is going to try to work with the borrowers to figure everything out. Now, if we just get paid off early, there's nothing that's going to happen. If someone's going through a momentary struggle or there's challenges during transition or, whatever that might be, the bank wants to make things right and keep things going for the health of the loan. But it happens. And if you make enough deals, it's going to happen to anyone eventually.
What are some other ways that you can be compensated as a BDO, like bonuses, servicing income? Like, What's that all about? Alan, Chris, anybody?
Well, the bonus I can relate to, we have like a tiered system where I'm at. I know a lot of other banks do as well, where if you start hitting those thresholds and you start doing, 10, 15, 20, $30 million in annual production on top of the compensation that you earn throughout the year from generating those loans, you can also be eligible for a bonus, which is really nice the following year because it kind of bridges the gap while you're working towards that top tier of the commission structure again. But that's not unusual. As far as getting paid on well-performing loans and servicing, my understanding is that's a fairly newer concept. But Chris, maybe as you're in senior leadership, maybe you can speak more to that. That's not anything that I've experienced firsthand.
I can speak to another way that BDOs can potentially make some additional money. And so, I think that and I'm going to be careful when I speak about this because every bank has their own approach to it. And it's important that any BDO that's listening to this speaks with their senior management and understands what their stance is on this. But what I'm talking about is loans that your bank turns down, right? So if your bank turns a opportunity down, but it's a bankable deal, there are many banks out there that will allow their loan officer to then go, send a loan to a bank like Alan's, for example. Like, hey, Alan, we passed on this deal. I think it's a good fit for your credit box. Do you want to do this deal? And then their bank will allow them to, receive either a portion of a commission check or some even will let you do the full commission check. It's all negotiable, right? And it's all about what your bank is comfortable with. And some banks are comfortable with zero. And it's important that you understand that. If you receive any type of compensation, then you're out the door. So you just have to make sure that you are aware of what your bank stance is when it comes to that, because you don't want to obviously do the wrong thing. But that is a way that I've seen some BDOs make some legitimate money. I mean, talking about $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 sometimes in loans that they've been able to place at other lenders. And again, it's just making sure that if you're going to do that, that you are aware of what your bank's stance is on that and that you are doing it the right way.
Right. And I would say that if you ever feel that, all your loans are getting declined and you're starting to moonlight as a broker, then you've got to start looking around, right? Because when there are those opportunities to kind of trade deals back and forth or, getting the bank involved or making sure that everything's above board, is there going to be a commission? Is the bank, are you going to pay the house on it? A lot of guys I know, I don't pay them. They don't pay me. We go back and forth. Some folks will, they'll actually get their bank will sign up with us. And when the commission check comes out, it goes to their bank. They receive their cut and then distribute it to the salesperson. The most important thing is to be super above board with that. That's something that could really jam your career up, not just your job. Hear me when I say it can jam your career up very quickly if you get a reputation for that kind of nonsense. Dude, I know guys that are always trying to, work a broker angle when they have a BDO role. And those are folks that likely don't have the stones to go out and be real loan brokers, right? But they're kind of dabbling and it's always the credit guy's fault and all this other stuff. But just beware of that stuff and don't get caught up knowing, well, if such and such bank could do this deal, they'll pay me a point on it or whatever it might be. That's not the mission at hand, right? But that is, to Sterling's point, another way that you can generate revenue. Chris, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it's not something that I'm super familiar with. And I thought maybe in your role, you would have a little more exposure or understanding of it. How have you seen compensation on your personal portfolio when there's not yours, but your BDO that has a good portfolio of well-performing loans, adding another level of almost residual compensation based on the ongoing positive performance? That's, to me, my understanding is that's something kind of newer, right? And if I'm mistaken on that, I apologize. But I don't know much about it, Chris. Can you kind of fill me in on what that looks like and what you've seen?
So in SBA loans, there's a servicing income on each of the loans. And there's a handful, not many, that are sharing in that servicing income on an annual basis. At the end of the year, they'll kind of do a true up on loans in your portfolio there, and you'll get basically a check, maybe, I don't know, 25, 50 basis points, and kind of split that servicing income with the lender based on your performing loans. So it's kind of like if you're, I don't know, an annuity or investment advisor, you're building your book of business. It's a way for recruitment and retention, right? Alan, you're here and you build a book of business and you do $50 million per year, and you've got a book of $200, $300 million of loans, and you're getting mailbox money just by calling on your borrowers, making sure they're doing their annual reviews, and you're making sure they're paying on time so that they're in good standing. But if you're getting mailbox money of 50, 60, 70 grand, in addition to your origination income, that's hard to leave on the table every year if you're getting that residual. Many lenders have not shifted to that model yet. I think it's a matter of capacity to manage that rather than the lack of desire to do it. Because in order to manage that, you have to look at all the loans booked. You have to, there's accounting metrics and how you capitalize the servicing income. There's a lot of stuff that's above my pay grade that you would have to account for in order to actually manage a comp plan in that manner. And I think that's the reason why you're not seeing it as prevalent in the SBA world as we think it should be. But I'm sure someone will create some software and figure it out where it becomes easier to implement that. And you'll start to see it become more common, because that's one way to asset quality, right? And your payer scores and your portfolio performance, that's super important. And in high growth shops, Alan, you guys are 400% growth, right? Right. You want to make sure those loans are good and they're on the books and they stay on the books, right? So what's a way to ensure that? Hey, not only do you have a clawback, but we'll incentivize you to make sure the loans that you're putting on our books are good, and we'll, share in the servicing income.
That kind of got me
the partnership.
That kind of got me into the next question was, do you guys see the industry changing in terms of how BDOs will be compensated in the future?
I do. I think at some point, a lot of lenders are, even though, again, the house still wins, even though BDOs are compensated well, but the bank is compensated more. I think there's going to be a shift with partnering with fintechs and other means to originate SBA loans, where you're going to have a smaller team of BDOs. You're not going to need to have 30 BDOs that you pay whatever amount. I'm not going to throw out a number. You're going to have a lot of fintech partnerships, online portals, and then the lenders that you do keep, you're going to reduce their comp potentially slightly. I don't know how much. And just it's a different business model that could be more profitable by not having a BDO. And we talked about this on our AI episode, where if you're a bank and you focus on loans less than 500,000 that are working capital, you can get all those through AI, and you keep 2 or 3 BDOs that can do the larger stuff. And you say, hey, BDOs, we're going to give you servicing income and a bonus, and we're going to have a comp plan that looks like this. That's a little bit less than historical comp. So I do see that there's going to be a slight incremental shift. I hear it in a lot of just leadership executive type meetings that I go to with my comrades there, and everyone's like, whoa. And I remind people, because I still win some myself, the house is still winning, y'all. What are we? No one's losing money unless you're one of those base riders.
Don't roll it back yet. Don't roll it back yet. Not until I'm out.
Unless you're employing a bunch of base riders, and no disrespect to those that ride the base, that's okay. But if you're employing good, solid BDOs, the house should still be winning, and it shouldn't be a need to adjust comp drastically.
Do we have any uplifting final thoughts on compensation as a new BDO in the industry, and maybe they're just not hitting the mark that they want? Any like advice, besides hustle your butt off? But
well, one of the things, like I think Sterling might have said, or maybe Alan, there's no cap. Like the sky is the limit. I hate to use a cliche term, but literally, the more you pick up the phone, the more you outreach, the more deals you'll get, the greater your compensation. So you really control your own destiny there. When I was in general banking, retail, our branch manager would say, your goal as a branch banker should be to produce so much to make them change the comp plan. Mm-hmm. It was Corey Gamble. I'll give him a shout out. Corey Gamble, I hope you listen to this. If not, we'll send you the episode. He would say, make them change the comp plan. Now, we got paid kind of how Sterling mentioned based on like retail and deposits and other factors. But if I'm a young BDO, how can I get to the point where they're like, man, this guy's making some, maybe we need to adjust the comp, right? That should be the goal, where you're doing so well that they have to look at the incentive plan and like, man, is this right? Is this right? And then they'll look and say, well, gosh, we made this amount of money in it because of his or her production.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point there. I mean, again, I think I just go back to my point that I made earlier in regards to, if you're a young BDO and you're struggling, just two things. First of all, make sure that you're doing the right things, right? Because ultimately, the number one thing that you can control is yourself and what you do when you wake up in the morning. Only you know whether or not you're really working hard. Only you know if you're actually putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to make yourself better at your job and grow as a person. If you're not doing those things, then, if you keep doing the same thing and you keep getting the same results, what they call that, right? Definition of insanity, right? So make sure that you are doing the right things. Also, make sure that you're in the right place. If you're not in the right bank that's going to support you, that actually believes in you as a BDO, that wants to see you win and succeed, and really wants to do SBA loans, then you're going to be spinning your wheels there for a long time. So it may be best for you to kind of move on to other pastures, and you can always try again. Trust me, in this industry, you don't get one life. Okay, I've seen plenty of cats out here who have 10 lives, not 9. So you can just keep chugging along. But yeah, it really goes back to making sure that you are doing the right things. And if you do and you treat people the right way, then eventually you're going to get opportunities and it'll take care of itself.
Yeah, I think it's also important really to expand on that, Sterling. It's you kind of just said it, just in different words too. It's like, you want that bank to support you, but it's your duty as well to support that bank. I think that the more that you think about it as a true partnership, the way it actually works, the opportunity to work crazy hard, make the bank a bunch of money, and a byproduct of that activity is you are compensated very well. If you continue to kind of put the bank first in what they're looking for, what the credit appetite is, what they're willing to approve, what they're going to sign off on and close, if you're finding those opportunities and you're working hard, you're going to have no problems. Just make sure that you do that, that gut check, and make sure that, you're on the same page as that organization before you go and do something crazy, like take a big base salary.
In the episode on that.
No base salary is good.
For sure.
No base riders, no job hopping.
No base riders.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for today. Another great episode, another interesting topic. It's topics like these that keep our episodes going. We lost Ryan a couple minutes into the episode. He's actually where is he, guys? He's in Cancun.
Cabo.
He's in a penthouse in Cabo on the episode we're talking about comp, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, that brings us back to the work-life balance.
At his spring home that he just bought with the commission check.
He's like, go build a sandcastle. I got to jump on this podcast. And I don't know. But it was nice for him to at least try to attempt it with us, because I know how passionate we all are about this show. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's topics like these that keep it interesting, whether we have Wi-Fi or not. One of us are going to be here. So go ahead and submit some more topics to us over at the BDO Show at gmail.com, and we will see you next time.